I hope you're having a great weekend. I wanted to create a video going into our next block, this block 3. Let me go to content. We're jumping into our final essay. So the last essay that we're going to work on for 3 weeks, and four if you need the fourth week to work on it. That's why we have, something kind of easier on the fourth week, so students can do something, can continue to work on their essay if they need to. All right. So our handouts, they don't seem to want to open while I'm home, so I'll go to my office this afternoon and make sure that the handouts are okay. So this one doesn't seem to want to open, and a couple of the examples don't seem to want to open, but that's okay. Again, I'm going to go to my office and make sure those are fixed. So we're getting into that argumentative research essay, and if you would like, you can carry over your first two essays into this research essay if you want to. Even the Raven, we have this, we have this idea of a man sitting at home in front of his books, maybe not Facebook, but in front of his books, uh, thinking about a loss, thinking about and descending into depression, descending into suicidal thoughts and whatnot, based on what he's looking at in front of him and what he's thinking about, and not breaking out of that mental issue. So you're able to carry that over, and I'm going to do a different video where we talk about that. I don't want too much into this one. But what we're going to do, we're going to look at Super Bowl commercials. We're going to look at social dilemma you already did, maybe social media influencers. If you'd like to bring in an influencer, you don't have to. We have Allegory of the Cave, other sources. And you're going to look at your own experience and compare them to the sources, right? So what I would like to do is actually go to our discussions and look at our thesis discussions to get an idea of where you can head with this if you would like to. All right. So our thesis discussion, we're going to look at some types of claims, like a claim of fact, claim of cause and effect, value, claim of policy. And what you're going to do is you answer 5 of these thesis statements. And then each student will answer 5 of these thesis statements as to state whether the thesis is arguable or not arguable, write the type of claim that made this thesis arguable. Right, but I just want to take a moment and look at these thesis statements from my former students, to help you get a direction of, well, what would I want to talk about if I'm looking at that box on the first page? So we had things like self-worth is the most pressing concern for young adults today. Commercialism has impacted social media to where many of us tragically attempt to make our moments and experiences as perfect as a packaged product. What does that do to our mental health? What does that do to young adults or whomever you want to talk about? Social media and influencers creates a false sense of companionship, right? The increase. Anyway, this one talks about baseball because the student didn't want to talk about social media. So I like to put this in here because again, you can apply this to anything. Um, let's see. Uh, Here's a good one. The solution to the true cost of commercialism is not unplugging and avoiding social media altogether. I don't know why these are smaller. Anyway, this is a really good thesis statement from a student. Teens are using TikTok trends to show themselves off because they are engulfed into the thought that doing the cutest TikTok dance will make them popular, just like influencers. That's really good. Um, Here's one about athletes. Young women have often been stereotyped to be weaker and less capable than men in athletic environments. Influencers to promote body. Anyway, so there's a whole lot of them. So we want to pick out 5 and say, is it arguable or non-arguable? And if it's arguable, what type of claim is it? So that's what we'll work on next. Let's see. We evaluate our success in relation to others by receiving fakes, likes, and emojis towards goals we never even pursue, right? So that's a really good one there. Um, Social media has stolen our ability to have any say in how we dictate ourselves online and within reality. So again, that one's a little extreme, but I thought, hey, I'm going to poke that in there anyway. All right. So there's a whole lot of thesis statements to our direction in which you might want to go. And then we're going to look at, so this week we're going to look at uh, some sources also that you can start looking into, some sources you can start looking into after you choose a topic, choose a relationship, a direction. So this table here It's supposed to help you go into some kind of direction for your essay. What do I want to talk about with so do I want to carry over my first essay into this? Do I want to look at, the Raven and do I want to carry that over? Do I not? Touchstones, man, that was that word I was looking for the other day. All right, so again, here's a table right here. You can look at the true cost of commercialism. What does that mean? Our leverage of values and morals, advertisements as insight into culture, um, identity and masks, hiding behind a mask. Do I want to look at addiction, self-worth, any of those, becoming the product? That's what I talk about a lot of times, that we become a product, we make ourselves a product online. And here is a lot of, and I'll keep on adding to these, but here is it's just some links here. Teens Take Fewer Risks is a great link. And this one right here, the Shippy Selfie Love, everyone needs to read this. Everyone needs to read that. In my larger class, we usually go into that a little bit more. But again, I want students to choose what do they want to talk about. Parable of the Cave is one that will watch. This is a video. Uh, I condensed. This is Christina Grimmie. She's a social media influencer. I condensed it way down to where it talks about having that false sense of companionship. And this is Fred Rogers Before the State. This is just where TV used to be. This used to be the problem with the screen, was like cereal commercials for children that had too much sugar. Oh my goodness, that used to be the biggest issue that we saw on screen. So take this week, take a moment and think about, well, what would I want to talk about? So as we're going into week 5, it says we'll begin the main essay, the advertisement argument this week. First, students will read the advertisement argument prompt. So again, I'll make sure that's loaded. Then they can read or watch Plato's Parable of the Cave. So that's the main one to do. This is not a mandatory source for an essay, but it is a good source. On your own, you can begin pre-writing ideas for this essay. You can read about pre-writes in your textbook. The pre-writes consist of clustering, brainstorming, listening. You don't have to get those towards me. That is just really difficult for students, especially if they're like me and they like to use pen and paper. I can just trust that you're getting it on your own, right? That you're getting some ideas together on your own. So read the proposal, watch Parable of the Cave, look at all those sources, find your own sources if you want, and do the thesis discussion. So all that you really have to do this week is that thesis discussion, right? Read the prompt and Super Bowl commercials. I forgot to put that. Read, watch. Did I put Super Bowl commercials there? Let me make sure. Look at the Super Bowl commercials. It is called an advertisement argument, so I do want the prompt says that I think it's like up to 6 to 8 sources, and one of them has to be a commercial. So one of them has to be a commercial, even if you're comparing baseball to commercialism. And here's a baseball is not tied; it's not a product, right? So even if you're comparing it to your own, you do have to use a commercial. Watch. Here we go. Watch. It doesn't have to be a Super Bowl commercial, but it does, you do need to incorporate a commercial. It doesn't need a, there we go. All right, so we do need to watch Super Bowl commercials. They're under the discussion. Made it really easy. All the Super Bowl commercials are laid out in the discussion. So all that you really have to do and submit, again, I know all this looks like, what am I supposed to do? All this you do on your own. As an adult, grown adult student, I have to trust that you're doing this on your own, because the class can get very difficult with a whole lot of points and a whole lot of assignments if I am assigning an assignment for every little thing. So if I say watch Plato's Parable of the Cave and create a discussion for it, watch the Super Bowl commercials, do a discussion for it, pre-write ideas, do a discussion for that. That can get really difficult for you as a student. So I have to just say you're an adult student who wants a good grade and wants to create a good essay. So I just have to trust that you're going to do these things on your own, and all that you actually have to submit is the thesis discussion. So we only have 2 discussions for this essay. We have 2 discussions in an essay. I mean, that's pretty much all that you have to turn in for this essay. So I try to keep it the actual work that you have to turn in very minimal, but there's a lot of work that you have to do as a student on your own. So if you don't watch Super Bowl commercials and you don't have commercials and discuss commercials in your essay, then you're not going to get a very good grade on the essay. All right. So we need to be drawing some connections, which will lead me to my last which lead us to our very last assignment for this essay. So all that you have to submit is just this submit right here. Submit thesis discussion in the discussion board by Wednesday, July 2nd. That's all you actually have to turn in for the class. All this other stuff you need to be doing on your own. Same with week 7. Oh, I didn't mean to click on it. Same with week 7 is, so you just got to click on it. It goes, anyway, so same with week 7. All that you have to submit is the blending discussion in the discussion board. I know our syllabus says Monday, July 7th. It's really Tuesday, July 8th. You have another day to do the blending discussion. So I'll make a video for that. Actually, there already is. Um, and then week 7th, you're just pretty much writing the essay. So for week 7, July 21st through 24th, did I get that correct? So 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me make sure. After I fix that, I'll make sure because I believe the class ends on July 24th. So that'd be week 8. So let me make sure I got that correct. 7th through 10th. I think I missed one. Oh, thankfully, I'll redo that. Week 7th is it's the week before that. This is week 8. So I'll make sure I fix that. But same as week 7, we just write the essay all week long and make sure that you have those MLA requirements in the essay. We'll do one video at a time, one thing at a time. All right. So this week, watch all these, read some different sources for your essay. Come up, a lot of these are videos. Come up with what do I want to write about in my advertisement argument essay. Make some notes to yourself. Do that thesis discussion because all those different thesis statements are going to help direct you towards what you want to talk about. All right, if you would like to look at the very last week of class, it's right here. And so again, I'll try to fix that. I'm going to fix that here in just a moment because we go 7 through 10 and then July 21st. I put the wrong block 4 has another what happened to that module. I'll tell you, I do things on Brightspace and it doesn't like me. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking at your ideas for your Raven essay. Since we do have 3 weeks to write this essay, if you need a little bit more time with the Raven after. So most students that I've read, this is the last thing I want to talk about. Most students that I read their outline for the Raven and they're turning in their essays are really good. So I might have 2 or 3 students who need to redo it. So you'll have a week or so to redo it if you're one of those students. If you don't, again, I'll be grading them all week long. So you'll probably be just fine there. So a vast majority of the students did it really well and turned that in. And a couple of students might need a little extra time on the Raven. Let me know if you need some help, get some ideas together. Let me know if you're like, hey, I want to do this idea, or I want to do that idea. It's probably just fine. And look at the example essays. I will have another place for even more example essays. So here's a bunch of links. I'll put a place for example. I'm just going to make a place for example essays over here. And so how it says sources, there'll be another place under that says example student essays also. So you can read those example essays. I have a lot of them and the students do a great job. Most of them really enjoy writing this essay. And so, anyway, let me know if you need some help or if you get an idea that you want to clarify.